Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the last week in our examination of Wayne Dyer's movie Ambition to Meaning. And I'm going to warn you right off the bat, this is a tricky one. This is well, the technical term will be depth psychology. And the concept is just as tricky as the wording is. Anyway, here's the deal. One of the keys that we know of to any kind of therapy or even getting better is that the individual has to start understanding and get a really good grasp of the idea that he is actually a living, breathing human being. Now you might say, well, obviously, but this actually isn't as obvious as you might think. Because the problem is, a lot of people are so wrapped up in their own worlds. In fact, this is one of the things I really learned from the alumni, is that all the alumni who are struggling haven't figured this out yet. And all the alumni who are doing really great have. It's a weird phenomenon, but it is. But it is what it is. So at any rate, here's the deal. So let's say you were to oh God, you're struggling and you're getting all this therapy, and here's my relapse prevention workbook, and I filled it out, and I've learned that I've got these struggles. They arose during my childhood. All that is meaningless unless you are fundamentally convinced that you are an important person. A famous psychologist, guy by the name of Rollo May, actually makes this argument, and he actually says, if you want to understand why most therapy is ineffective, it's because they don't pursue this point, that to help the client understand that he is actually a living, breathing human being. This is the fundamental starting point. Once you figure that out, then you can deal with your issues of anger, depression, or whatever it is you're dealing with. But until you actually figure this out, everything else is a band-aid. So one of the things to understand about this is that you, regardless of whether you know who you are, my two famous questions, right? Who are you and how do you fit in the world around you? Like, before you even understand how to answer those, or before you can provide any sort of good answer to them, before you deal with your depression, before you deal with your anger or any other issue, you have to have an awareness that you are a human being. And Rollo May's example is of a woman who was illegitimate, and this was a few years ago. And illegitimacy was a really big stigma attached to it. In fact, I was reading Eric Clapton's autobiography, right, and he had the same stigma. That's why he said right in the front of the book that he knew when he was growing up he was different, and it was because the people who said they were his parents, in fact, actually weren't his parents. Anyway, so this woman that Rollo May is talking about has this stigma attached to her life, and everything about her life is like that. She lives this shame-based life. And then at one day, I'm not sure why, it hits her that it doesn't matter if I'm illegitimate or not. It's irrelevant. I am still me. I am still alive, and I am breathing, and I think and I feel just like every other human being. And when she had that awareness, then she worked with Rollo May for actually 2 years to get over her other struggles. But it is this fundamental awareness that you are an important, worthwhile human being, as valuable as every other human being on the planet. But most people I notice who are struggling are so busy, they're either sort of wrapped up in a blanket of their own suffering, or they're doing things for other people, or they're just putting in action for the sake of it because somebody told them this was a good idea. They're always doing something, and yet they haven't sat back and actually figure out that they're a valuable, living, breathing human being regardless of what they're suffering from. So again, as I said, it's a bit tricky to understand this concept, but I have seen it so many times. In fact, we just had a client just finish the program. He's doing great, fantastically better than when he first came in. And I remember a couple of weeks ago when it happened to him. I remember exactly the night when, regardless of all his struggles, he finally figured out that he was a human being just the same as every other human being on the planet. And from that moment on, the change was remarkable. So I would encourage you, in spite of all your struggles, in spite of all the pains you may be going through, to actually sit back and realize that, yes, you are a being, and you are as valuable a being as anybody else. And those of you who have already had that awakening, you know just how powerful that experience really is. At any rate, we'll come up with a new topic next week, and we'll see you then.